You think you know carnivals. The rides are safe because they were inspected. The games are totally fair, and that guy running the zipper definitely got a full 8 hours of sleep last night, right? Well, because carnivals have been hiding absolutely wild stories behind the flashing lights, fried food, and questionable bolts, today I am playing Carnival Fact or Fiction. I'm going to give you some of the craziest claims from carnival history. Deadly rides, rigged games, bizarre midway secrets, and things that sound way too insane to be true. Some of them are completely made up, and some of them you're going to wish that they were made up. Grab your funnel cake, keep your hands inside the ride at all times, because this is about to get weird. Welcome back to Death Kiss Traveler. My name is Marissa, your morbidly curious host. And if you haven't already, hit that follow or subscribe button and come hang out with me on TikTok and Instagram for even more weird history, wild accidents, creepy stories, and all the stuff that doesn't always make it into the podcast. All right, my friends, let's get back to the midway for some wild stories. All right, let's start off with an easy one. Fact or fiction? Carnival rides are inspected by the federal government. Fiction. And this one is a little terrifying because most people assume there's some federal inspector walking around the midway like, yep, bolts are tight, nobody's flying off into the corn dogs today. But that's not really how it works. The federal government, mainly through the Consumer Product Safety Commission, does have authority over traveling amusement rides and can investigate accidents, issue safety warnings, and things like that. And they do get involved when there's a dangerous ride. But the actual routine inspections, those are mostly handled by states and local government. And here is where it gets weird. The rules can change depending on the state that the carnival is in. A ride can be torn down, loaded into a truck, driven across a state line, rebuilt in a parking lot, and suddenly it may be operating under a completely different inspection system. Some states use government inspectors, some use certified private inspectors, some require daily checks, and historically some states had very little oversight at all. Utah, for example, didn't even establish its current statewide amusement ride inspection system until 2019. So no, there isn't a secret team of federal carnival agents following the tilt-a-whirl around the country, which means the next time you hear that restraint go click, 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 maybe don't ask, did the government inspect this? Ask, who inspected this? Preferably before the ride starts. All right, fact or fiction, ride operators have to be licensed everywhere in the United States. That's another fiction. There is no single nationwide license required for every carnival ride operator. Requirements depend on the state, county, city, and sometimes even the specific type of ride. Some places require formal training or certification. Others put more responsibility on the carnival company to train its own employees. So yeah, depending on where you are, the person running the ride may have a complete specific licensing requirement, or they may have been trained directly by their employer that morning, which is probably not the information you want to think about while a sketchy looking guy named Cletus is locking you into the chaos machine. Okay, fact or fiction, games can be legally rigged. This one is fiction, technically. A carnival game can't legally be made completely impossible to win while pretending you have a fair shot. But here's the sneaky part. It can be made incredibly, painfully, rage-inducing difficult. That basketball hoop, it might be smaller, stiffer, angled differently, or paired with an inflated ball. That bottle knockdown game, the bottles may be weighted or arranged in a way that makes the easy shot way harder than it looks. So no, it doesn't have to be rigged. It just has to make you think, I almost had it. And that leads perfectly into this one. Fact or fiction, some carnival games are designed so the big prize is mathematically almost impossible to win. Yep, that's a fact. A small prize might be pretty achievable, but that 6-foot stuffed Pikachu hanging from the ceiling, Yeah, he's basically an employee and you're never going to take him home. Because sometimes you have to win several times in a row just to get the giant prize. Let's say you have a 1 in 5 chance of winning once. Not terrible, but if you have to do that 3 times in a row, now your odds are 1 in 125. And suddenly you've spent $40 trying to win a stuffed animal because you were so close. That's the real magic of carnival games. They don't necessarily need you to lose every time. They just need you to believe the next $5 is definitely going to be the one. Fact or fiction, the Ferris wheel was originally created to compete with the Eiffel Tower. Fact. And this might be my favorite carnival fact because the Ferris wheel basically exists because America looked at France and said, "Oh, you think that's impressive?" The Eiffel Tower had been built for the 1889 World's Fair in Paris. And at nearly 1,000 feet tall, it completely stole the show. So when Chicago was preparing for the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, the organizers wanted their own massive engineering masterpiece, something that could rival the Eiffel Tower and prove America could build something just as spectacular. Enter engineer George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. His idea, instead of building another giant tower, let's build an enormous rotating wheel and put people on it. Naturally, the original Ferris wheel was enormous for its time, about 250 feet in diameter, with 36 passenger cars, each capable of holding dozens of people. Altogether, it could carry more than 2,000 passengers at once, and people loved it. It opened in June of 1893 and became one of the biggest attractions of the entire Chicago's World's Fair. So that cute little Ferris wheel at your county fair, its great-great-grandfather wasn't created because somebody thought, you know what carnivals need? A slow romantic ride. No, it was essentially created as a giant piece of international architecture trash talk. France had the Eiffel Tower. America answered with, fine, our spins. Fact or fiction, that original Ferris wheel was eventually blown up with dynamite. It's a fact. After debuting at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, the original Ferris wheel was moved, reopened, moved again, and eventually it ended up at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. But after the fair closed, nobody really knew what to do with this absolutely enormous steel wheel. So in 1906, they demolished it, and not delicately, which means the Ferris wheel was invented as America's answer to the Eiffel Tower, and ended its life being blown to pieces with explosives. Honestly, it feels very American, doesn't it? France, we built a giant landmark too, but 13 years later, we're gonna just blow it up. Okay, fact or fiction, some old carnival attractions displayed real human remains. Fact. And now we're entering Death Kiss Traveler territory, because when old sideshows promised, step right up and see the dead, sometimes they weren't kidding. One of the craziest examples is Elmer McCurdy. I did a whole episode on him. He's an outlaw who was shot and killed in Oklahoma in 1911. His body was embalmed, but nobody came to claim him. So the Undertaker did the completely normal, reasonable thing. He started charging people a nickel to see his corpse. Eventually, 2 carnival promoters pretended to be McCurdy's relatives, claimed the body, and took him on the road. His real mummified body then spent decades traveling through carnivals, sideshows, crime exhibits, and amusement attractions. But here's where the story gets insane. By the 1970s, people had basically forgotten that Elmer was a real person. His body ended up hanging inside a funhouse at the Pike Amusement Zone in Long Beach, California, and everyone thought he was a mannequin until 1976 when a crew filming the $6 Million Man tried to move him, and his arm broke off. Inside was human bone. Surprise! The dummy hanging in the funhouse was actually a man who had been dead for 65 years. Authorities eventually identified him as Elmer McCurdy, and he was buried in Oklahoma in 1977. So yes, that is a fact. Some old carnival and sideshow attractions absolutely displayed real human remains. The Elmer McCurdy episode is one of my favorite stories I've ever covered. Go listen to that episode after this. It's a good one. Fact or fiction, one of the deadliest dangers at a fair might have absolutely nothing to do with the rides. That's a fact, because fairs have seen deadly fires, crowd crushes, explosions, severe weather, and even entire concert stages collapsing. In 2011, thousands of people were gathered at the Indiana State Fair waiting for Sugar Land to perform when powerful winds hit. The massive stage rigging suddenly collapsed directly into the crowd. 7 people died, and nobody had even gotten on a ride. So apparently at the fair, you don't just have to worry about the machine called the Mega Death Spinner, held together by 16 bolts and someone's optimism. Sometimes the most dangerous thing at the Midway isn't the ride at all. Fact or fiction, a carnival ride can legally operate again after being involved in an accident. That's a fact. And this one sounds absolutely insane to me until you really think about it. An accident does not automatically mean a ride is permanently retired. Depending on the state, what happened, and how serious it was, the ride may be shut down while the incident is investigated. Inspectors can examine the ride, the manufacturer may issue repair instructions, damaged parts can be replaced, and the ride will have to pass another inspection before it operates again. Then it can potentially reopen. The CPSC has done exactly this kind of thing with traveling rides before, issuing inspections and repair programs after safety problems, rather than declaring that every affected ride must be destroyed forever. And that's because an accident happening on this ride can mean very different things. Maybe a rider ignored instructions, maybe a component failed, maybe something was assembled incorrectly, maybe there was a maintenance issue, or maybe investigators discovered an actual design problem affecting every ride of that model. Those situations aren't treated the same way. In Utah, for example, amusement rides need permits and annual in-person safety inspections. And operators also have to inspect rides every day they're open to the public. Utah can also penalize operators for running a ride without a current inspection or for operating one in violation of a cease and desist order. So if you hear someone was injured on that ride last year and see that exact same ride spinning at the fair again, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody just shrugged it off and said, yeah, I'm sure it's fine. It may have been investigated, repaired, re-inspected, and cleared to operate again. So yes, fact, a carnival ride can be involved in an accident and legally carry passengers again, which is reassuring. Although I personally would not prefer to learn that information while I'm already strapped into it. True or false? Cotton candy used to be called fairy floss, and it was invented by a dentist. Fact. Yes, all of that is true. Cotton candy as we know it was created in the late 1890s by John C. Warren, a candy maker, and William J. Morrison, a dentist, because apparently Dr. Morrison looked at tooth decay and thought, you know what this needs? Marketing. The two developed a machine that melted sugar and spun it into those super thin fluffy strands we know today. But they didn't call it cotton candy, they called it fairy floss, which honestly I like it better. It sounds like something a Victorian child would trade their soul for. Then in 1904, Morrison and Wharton brought fairy floss to the St. Louis World's Fair, where they sold it for 25 cents a box. And people went crazy for it. They sold more than 65,000 boxes. So yes, one of the most sugary, cavity-friendly foods ever associated with fairs was helped in existence by a dentist. He created the cavity and had all of the skill set to fix it. That, my friends, it's called job security. Fact or fiction, carnival sideshows helped introduce Americans to medical technology. Fact. And this one sounds horrible at first because, yes, people literally paid admission to look at sick people or premature babies in incubators. Starting around the turn of the 20th century, showman Martin Corney operated incubator baby exhibits at the World's Fair expositions and eventually Coney Island. premature babies were placed in glass incubators while crowds filed past to see them, which sounds like the darkest carnival attraction imaginable. But here's the twist. The exhibits were actually helping keep these babies alive. At the time, incubator care for premature infants, well, it was not widely available in American hospitals. County used admission money from spectators to help pay for expensive, around-the-clock care, nurses, equipment, and feeding, and parents generally weren't charged, and these were poor families. So people would go to Coney Island, ride the roller coaster, eat something questionable, and see a sideshow, and then walk into an exhibit demonstrating what would eventually become a fundamental part of neonatal medicine. It is one of the strangest combinations of carnival entertainment and life-saving medical technology in America. So yes, that is a fact. Some people went to the Midway looking for entertainment and accidentally got a glimpse of the future in medicine. If this sounds familiar, I did do a whole episode on it. I absolutely love history. It's so interesting how many things tie back to those old state and county fairs, amusement parks in general. Listen to that episode as well. I think it's called Incubator Babies of Coney Island. And on to our next one. Fact or fiction, the ride that looks the scariest is usually the most dangerous. Fiction. A giant ride swinging 100 feet in the air might look like it was designed by someone with a personal grudge against gravity, but scary doesn't automatically mean dangerous. Height and speed are only one part of the equation. Accidents can involve things like maintenance problems, improper assembly, restraint issues, operator error, or ride behavior. And those can happen on rides that look completely harmless. And actually they do. So while everyone is staring nervously at the giant pendulum called the Devil's Hammer, sometimes the bigger risk could be something much smaller and less intimidating, like the zipper. Basically, your fear meter, it's not a safety rating, which is unfortunate because that was really all I had going for me. Fact or fiction, the first state fair in America happened before the Civil War. That is a fact. The first U.S. official state fair was held in Syracuse, New York in 1841, a full 20 years before the Civil War began. And this was not the state fair we know today. No giant Ferris wheel, no deep-fried Oreos, or a teenager operating something called the Gravitron. Instead, thousands of people came to see livestock, farm equipment, manufactured goods, speeches, and even a plowing competition. Basically, the original state fair was, "Come look at my cow," and America said, absolutely. This part makes me laugh because they judged you on how straight your lines were in the field. I mean, what else did they have to do back then? Fact or fiction, state fairs once featured public executions. Fiction-ish. There is a reason this sounds believable. Public executions in the late 1800s could draw massive crowds and were often treated like public spectacles. People traveled in from surrounding towns, families showed up, and there were often food sellers, drink vendors, and merchants working the crowd. Almost like a grim little pop-up marketplace formed around the event. So while executions weren't typically an official state fair attraction, they could absolutely have that same chaotic carnival-like atmosphere, which is a very dark reminder that entertainment has changed a lot. Today we have grab the kids, we're going to the fair. Back then, grab the kids. There's a hanging at noon and apparently snacks. Fact or fiction, some famous sideshow monsters were completely fake. This one's also a fact. Carnival and sideshow operators were very good at giving people exactly what they wanted. Something weird enough to make you hand over a coin and say, okay, I have to see that. Some attractions were genuine performers or real medical curiosities. Others were completely fabricated. One of the most famous examples was the Fiji Mermaid, displayed by P.T. Barnum in the 1840s. And despite the name, it was not a mermaid. It was essentially a grotesque fake creature made by combining parts of a monkey and a fish, and presenting it as the preserved remains of an actual mermaid. Oh, that's so gross. Barnum hyped it up with advertisements, mysterious stories, and just enough scientific presentation to make people wonder, wait, could this be actually real? It was not even a little. So the Fiji mermaid was a real mermaid displayed by P.T. Barnum. Fiction, extremely fiction. It was basically a Victorian clickbait, except instead of clicking a headline, you paid admission to stare at a dead monkey sewn to a fish. And with that, the lights are starting to dim. The midway is getting quiet. The last Ferris wheel car is coming back down. Somewhere, someone is carrying a 6-foot stuffed animal they spent approximately $87 to win, and the curtains are officially closing on our carnival. Underneath all those flashing lights are more than a century of stories, brilliant inventors, terrible accidents, medical breakthroughs, scams, sideshows, real human remains mistaken for mannequins, and a dentist inventing cotton candy. A Ferris wheel created because America needed to one-up France, and machines with the names like the Super Cyclone Death Vortex being assembled in the parking lot before breakfast. The carnival has always existed somewhere between magic and manipulation, between come and see something you've never seen before and give me $5 and I swear you'll win this time. And honestly, that's probably why more than 180 years after America's first state fair, we are still showing up. We know the basketball game is harder than it looks. We know we absolutely do not need a fluorescent green stuffed frog the size of a refrigerator. And we definitely know eating a funnel cake immediately before riding something that spins at 40 miles an hour is a horrible life decision. And yet we do it anyway. Because for hours the fair feels like its own little world. The music is too loud, the food is ridiculous, everything is glowing, somebody is screaming from 100 feet in the air. And just for a second, you feel like a kid again. So as fair season comes to an end, take one last walk down the midway. Grab the cotton candy, play the game you absolutely know you're going to lose, ride the Ferris wheel, and maybe look at those bolts a little closer than you used to. And if you enjoyed playing Carnival Fact or Fiction with me today, make sure you're following or subscribe to Death Kiss Traveler. And come find me on TikTok or Instagram because the stories definitely don't stop when the episode ends. There's always more abandoned parks, more bizarre accidents, more dark history, more hauntings, and plenty of stories that sound completely fictional until you find out they're true. I personally don't enjoy fair rides. Usually they're a bunch of spinning rides that make me sick. But I can appreciate the fair. I love the sounds and the smells and the people watching. Oh, there's nothing better. And I hope you enjoyed this fun little history lesson. Until next time, the lights are going out, the gates are closing, the carnival is packing up and moving on to the next town. But remember, just because the midway disappears overnight doesn't mean all of its stories leave with it. Good night, travelers, and as always, stay curious, stay a little creepy, and I'll see you at the next stop. You are not going to want to miss next week.